actually going to be starting off kind of in this situation. So, there is a video up on Gamespot where they are talking about. I'm just going to say they because I don't really know the names. I don't watch Gamespot that much, but this one kind of caught my attention a little bit. So, it's time to rethink pre-ordering games. Spot on. I guess they have a little podcast show called Spot On. And this is the reason why I'm going into this topic. Normally, I just it's like whatever. But this is GameSpot. This is a very published, very well known publication, I guess you could say, of gaming news and stories and this, that, and the other thing. And when I'm hearing them say stuff that is, well, we'll get into what they're saying here, but just their way that they're going about looking at the business side of pre-ordering and the reason why we have pre-ordering and everything, it just was like, what the hell are they talking about?
Tied to video games for a very long time. Back in the day, you had to get your pre-order in either to make sure that the shop was going to have enough copies, gauge interest that way, or if, like me, you had a special shop that would post games out early.
First of all, let's do the usual, like, if you're super into pre-ordering, firstly, who are you? Secondly, fair play, we don't want to yuck your yum, do whatever you want. This is just like our perspective on it. I think the important thing to kind of distinguish is pre-orders have changed in a lot of ways. I remember back in the day, like at least PS2 era, that was like the last time I pre-ordered a game, and I learned my lesson because...
look at me, I haven't pre-ordered a game in 20 years.
Look at me, I'm smart. I mean, like, I was burned hard.
So they're gonna start off by saying, "Yeah, you do you," and then, "I'm smart because I don't do it. You're dumb."
Because all for me.
I used to pre-order all the time, like the 360, PS3 years.
In the PS2 era, and even like bleeding into some of the 360, PS3 era, the pre-orders you were doing were retailer side, right? Like, at least for my experiences in London, in England, UK, it was you go to like Game or HMV, and you'd be like. They would do the usual, you better pre-order this because it's not going to be in stock, and you'd pay.
I've heard that at GameStop before. And even back in the day, it's like companies would have a set budget of how many copies they're going to be pushing out. If they had the budget to push out 100 million units, then there's going to be 100 million units distributed between all of the shops worldwide. That's just like the way it works. Whether or not you pre-order it more or not didn't really make a difference. They go into digital though, which I actually do agree.
Like £5, but that would be subtracted from the cost of the full game, right?
Yeah.
As someone who also worked in retail and was in a game store.
The dark years.
Yeah, the dark years. When they were like, they might not have many of these, that was bullshit. Like the next day there would be like just boxes and boxes of it. The only situation where saying like, we might not have a lot of these, and it actually happened, was Nintendo games.
I was going to say the Wii.
Yeah, the Wii stuff was...
Wii Fit.
The Wii was difficult to get. Wii Fit was difficult to get.
Ring
Metroid
Fit.
Prime Trilogy was one that was like...
I will say, though, if it's something like Grand Theft Auto and it's going to sell out, that's when the pre-order would really come in handy, because then it's like guaranteed that you are going to... And that's what they were actually mostly talking about. Him working in a game store should know this. They're making games that really sell out. Like... I remember going down to GameStop trying to pick up Def Jam back in the day, and they were just like, "We don't have a copy." And we went down there like twice, and it was sold out because everybody's like, "Def Jam Fight for New York is amazing," and I remember being like, "I just want to get my hands on that." But yeah, like I said, pre-orders that way would actually save you.
And that came in, and we were like told to say like, it might not be a lot of them. I was like, I'm actually going to say this because there's probably not going to be a lot of them. Also, I bought 3 of them. Then in the era that we're talking about, the 360 PS3 era, that's when the publishers and like marketing cottoned onto it and started to make it a part of the process, right?
Well, that's when it got bull.
Yeah.
Mass Effect 2, certainly. Arkham City, every single retailer had a different pre-order bonus. Arkham Cities were particular.
Pre-order bonuses with different places having different pre-order bonuses. Yes, that was a rough business. I remember Mass Effect 2. I was just like, I want all the outfits. I can't get them all. And literally we had to wait like a couple of years before the outfits actually became available.
Egregious.
Yeah. There's that legendary Watch Dogs chart where it's like all the additions and pre-order bonuses, and you had to like cross-reference it, whichever one you wanted.
That was PS4, right? Yeah, because I mean, if in the PS4 years, you also had like augment your pre-order and
that
evolve.
was.
In all honesty, though, as I've always said about pre-order bonuses, like, there's nothing to really complain about when it comes to pre-order bonuses. If anything, the only thing you can maybe complain about is that it's like 9 times out of 10, the pre-order bonus lasts you for the first like level, and then that's it. And then you never use it again, or you never even look at it again, or you just, whatever. You get something else that it has better stats, that looks cooler, that's, that's the reason why it's a pre-order bonus, because it's just something to get you started into the game, and then you go on to the better stuff afterwards. So to say pre-order bonuses are like dirty business or anything, no, it's not. It's just something. It's just a starter pack, basically.
And everything.
Right. PS3 Best Buy
wasn't one like Dr. Pepper?
Since then, like, I think pre-orders have changed a little bit. They were still very much like publisher and marketing initiatives, and now retailers also.
They always were. Even back in the day, like, pre-order the PlayStation to get a demo disc or something with it, like, or the first 100 versions of an Xbox 360 has Xbox Live, packaged in with it or whatever. Pre-order yours now, or no.
Benefit from it to a degree. There's
it's
like
marketing.
A quid pro reason that we're told to pre-order or encouraged to pre-order is kind of bullshit, and I think of them as like, at best, they're kind of rubbish. At worst, they're like anti-consumer. It's like if a debut trailer or a gameplay video comes out for any game, it usually ends with pre-order now. And that is basically monetizing your interest and your hype around a game, right? And we see something.
No, it's not. Not in the slightest. What it's doing is it's helping, first of all, get anybody who wants access in without it being so. This screen right here, pre-purchase now, get up to 4 days early access. If I was a giant Diablo fan and I wanted early access just about at the same time when everybody else is putting out their preview stuff, and I don't want to see any story moments, ruined by spoilers, especially, and everything that's going on nowadays. So early access is perfect for that. So if you want to get your hands on this thing almost as soon as the review codes are going out, you can actually do that. Plus, also, it gives, the first week sales of any game are super telling of whether or not the game is doing well to stock shareholders and all that stuff. So, if they incentivize pre-ordering and those pre-orderings are through the roof, then it gives them an extra ability effort with, asking for more funding to maybe make DLC later on down the road. If a game sells really well on that first week of sales, then you can bet your ass there's going to be either a sequel to it or some kind of a sequel to it, or there might be even, DLC story campaign stuff that can get finished up. If not, then that storyline campaign DLC, it could get canceled, because if a game is not doing well, Avengers is a really weird one. The only reason why Avengers got so many extra seasons of DLC to it when everybody hated the Marvel's Avengers Assembly game. No, not okay. Marvel's Avengers game is because I was trying to make a joke there. They didn't. Never mind. But the only reason why they got so much DLC for it was because of the fact that it actually sold really well. People hated it, sure, but it sold really well. They didn't the expansions also didn't do much more to hype everyone up for Marvel's Avengers. People had the same opinion for it, but even that kind of sold well, just because people were like, well, maybe they're going to fix things up. Maybe this is going to be a little bit cooler of a thing. And people kept buying it, so they kept getting more expansion packs for it. It's the reason why Call of Duty still is around. People complain up and down about the whole thing and like, oh, the marketing is, da 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 da. Well, there's always a sequel to it because it keeps selling super well. Now, again, if you pre-order something and you really want to help the game be very successful day one, yes, a pre-order is great for business-wise. That's the reason why you also hear a lot of indie development studios, the people that are indie developers, they always say, wish list this on Steam or wish list this on your consoles or whatever, because that also helps out, again, with funding later on down the road. So if they are trying to, say a game gets delayed or something, well, that pre-order that you put in, that can actually help make the game better at launch on day one to help possibly fund a, you know, even more development time on a day one patch or whatever. Everybody thinks that just like these billion-dollar corporations are just pushing money into the industry and that's just what it is. Well, no, it goes both ways. You know, if there's nothing on the consumer's part, why would those billion-dollar industry leading companies even care to do anything with that IP again?
Basically monetize, and you think I'm interested, and then we've been trained to express that interest by putting money down. So a lot of, if we're being honest,
because money talks louder than social media shit posts. That really, let's be honest. You know, everybody, it sucks, and oh, this is great, and everything. It comes down to, you know, I've heard this from fighting game developers like Harada, you know, for many years, and also like Elden Ring, when that sold so well, Harada's like, yeah, you know, FromSoft is absolutely going to make another one. You know why? Because Bandai made a shit ton of money off from Elden Ring, so of course, you know, they're gonna.
a lot of us define ourselves by our interests, right?
You're literally wearing a Demolition Man shirt and a...
To a degree, like we almost have this conditioning to pre-order stuff because if we feel like it's important to us, let's pay the money to it. But like the business and like the transactional reasons are like more obvious, right? Like,
games are expensive as hell to make.
Sure,
so yeah, obviously
absolutely.
we're coming at it from the pre-ordering is maybe not good all the time, but there are legitimate business cases for it. Video games, especially in the last 20 years, have become just they cost
astronomically
expensive.
GTA 6 is probably going to be $1 billion game with all the development that's going into it. Think about that for a second.
To make. And, you know, obviously don't want to think that we're calling out just the AAA here. It's very important for indies too.
Pre-order bonuses, like the knickknacks you get, almost never worth it. Like very.
Are you saying that 6 of Gollum's best phrases and poses? By the way, I have that game and I have that edition. He has one phrase that he says, which is "my precious," and I actually think there are only 4 emotes, really.
Yeah.
Or maybe 5. All of them involve him
chasing a fly.
Chasing a fly.
I will say,
Resident Evil 4 Remake, for example, there's an attaché case that will increase the drop rate of gunpowder so you can make ammo. There are people out there who would genuinely benefit from having that, and it's a good gameplay consideration.
He just destroyed his own argument. He just destroyed his own argument right there. Well, it's all just knickknacks. Nobody really gives a shit about it. And then he goes on to say, oh, this briefcase can actually help somebody. Dude, the briefcase is almost like a PC mod, okay? I started using that damn briefcase halfway through my playthrough on the PC without mods. I was like, oh, I need more ammo at the halfway mark of RE4 Remake. I am struggling with this. Holy, everything is taking so much to kill. That's Resident Evil for you, you know? That's part of the experience of it, like, oh, I have to do a little bit of ammo management towards the tail end of this game. He just destroyed his own argument. This is the reason why GameSpot is... I'm very reluctant to read any reviews or actually any publication. Reviews, previews, I don't read them. I will only check out developers' notes and like the trailers. That's the reason why I'm so big on like Summer Games Fest and everything. It's like that's yeah.
For people who might not be as skilled or you know might not want to feel the constant grind of almost being out of ammo, but then they did the bullshit thing of making you pay for it, which is extremely, I think, like anti-consumer. Usually that shit just gets added to the game for you to buy, or it's for free. Like
when a Game of the Year version of the game.
Or the Mass Effect costumes eventually were just in the game, right? Like
yes,
you could just buy that stuff.
You're not actually paying for it. You're pre-ordering the game. If for me, it's $70 with $5 tax on top. Just about $5 tax on top. You are not paying extra for that DLC. It is a early incentive bonus that you are getting for free when you actually, pre-order, meaning that, okay, I put money down on this thing, you're giving me a free incentive to just pay the full price of the game a little bit earlier to make sure that the game sales look really good. You are not paying extra for that. So again, this dude's argument is null and void right there.
On the Cerberus network. And then the other thing is the betas. I think this is the worst part of it. Like paying money to get access to a beta is crazy. You are paying someone to do testing for them.
Okay, you know my argument when it comes to betas. Everybody should have access to a beta. Well, everybody should have access that wants access to it. So yes, if you are not paying anything extra and you are actually buying the full version of the game, 100% they should have an open beta for it. Because guess what? Now you actually have a line of, like, it's the only damn line of communication that we have to developers that, yes, let me in to check this thing out, to get hands on with it, especially for somebody that's like a content creator like me. Yes, give me a beta all day long with a pre-order bonus, because that's the only damn way I can get in, because my numbers ain't 1 million subscribers. So they overlook all of us. This guy over here, guess what he's going to do? He's going to hit up his buddies that are probably in the industry because he works for a GameSpot. Maybe he worked for an IGN. I have no idea. But these arguments like this are so bad for the industry overall, because while we are trying to fight to get developers to even look at us smaller content creators, and even people that aren't content creators, you maybe you just want to jump in and try the damn game at one time, and there's nothing but closed beta 1, closed beta 2, closed beta 3. Maybe there's an open beta for 48 hours, and then you have to go to work or something, or school or something, and you miss it. Then you have no idea if you even like the game that's coming out. So no. If I can pre-order a game and literally the free bonus to the game, it is free. The free bonus to the game is legit, that of getting early access to a game that I have no idea if I'm gonna like or not. I've had talk about Call of Duty. MW2, I jumped into the closed beta on that because I was lucky enough to get through a promotional program through my internet service provider, and boom, I got access into MW2 remake, I call it, or remaster, remake. Sorry, remake. But yeah, I got early access into that, not by pre-ordering, but by another. It wasn't by talking to the developers, but I might as well have pre-ordered it to get early access. It was pretty much the same thing. And yeah, it sold me on the game. Cold War, it unsold me from the game. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll check out Cold War. Maybe I'll pick it up. It looks kind of cool. Didn't like the online to it, didn't pick it up. It was a free thing that I also got through that too. So this whole thing of like, oh, you have to pre-order to get a closed beta. There's a lot of like sponsored things that ends up happening. Not sponsored is the wrong word. A lot of promotional things where, like I said, a service provider, or go and sign up on this website for this newsletter and then you get a free beta code or something, some other thing like that happening. But just to hear that, such a hot take, while we're all fighting so hard so that we, more smaller content creators can actually get hands on and voice an opinion, versus the big giant billion-dollar companies and everything that are making these games that we will end up buying in the long run. That is the dumbest thing that you could end up doing, is coming at, developers for doing a closed beta, when then, like I said, you're not paying $5 extra for a closed beta. No, you are literally pre-ordering the game, getting early access. If you don't like the game, you cancel your pre-order. No money wasted. You get to test it. What the hell is wrong with that?
Or provide some sort of telemetry for them, right? They're taking data away from you playing the game and using it to change the game, or like help them understand where their game is at. But that is something that a tester gets paid for, or should be getting paid for. But in this scenario, you're paying them to play the game that isn't out, so then you can give them data to help them make the game. That's crazy.
No, that's game development. That means you have a bigger pool of data to collect from, so you can make sure that the game works proper. There's a reason why Street Fighter 6 had the open beta, so they could stress test the servers. Diablo 4 had a stress test. It was literally called a stress test, so they could pack the servers full of people and make sure that the servers weren't going to die on day one. You know why? Because the game is always online. If the servers die, you can't access the game. This is, oh boy, it just makes your head spin around in circles, because it's like, what in the hell is GameSpot over here talking about? This guy is like, sure, there's people that get paid to play test a game during the main development cycle when the game's not actually finished yet. Then you push it to the public to make sure the servers are working, and then also you can only pay so many people in the office. Alana Pierce has talked about this plenty of times, and and given actual statements from other developers that she knows in other development teams. She works on Sony Santa Monica. She's asked playtesters from like God of War Ragnarok and everything. They only hire so many people to playtest. When you get the game into millions of people's hands, then you have millions of other things that comes up that you have to patch properly and everything. That's why Jedi Survivor had such a rocky start when it launched, because they didn't have the giant pool of different PC hardware specs and everything to pull data from. That is the worst thing that you could say as a game journalist working. He must be a game journalist. He's working at GameSpot. Maybe he's just a shit poster. I don't know. But still, it's like, give me a break. Why would you? Again, normally I just skim past all these videos like this. But this one was just like, my God, I have been making videos for like 4 or 5, 6 years, however long it's been, promoting more betas and more, better pre-order incentives like this. And again, it's all for free. If you don't like the game, cancel your pre-order. You just checked everything out for free.
Hey, that's what. How likely is it that you're gonna go back and cancel that pre-order? And how likely is it that that process is easy? Right now, games are of them to.
Guess what happened when Cyberpunk was a kind of a turd on launch? Sony literally had a website set up where you could just go in there and click and you could get a refund. I did it because it wouldn't work on really that well on the console. And you know what? Then I bought it on sale, I don't know, a year later, I think, 2 years later, something like that, when they fixed it back up again. And then I streamed it again a little bit after the Edgerunners deal, the Edgerunners anime DLC combo came out, and I was like, yeah, this is great. I can't wait to play the Phantom Liberty DLC now because they've actually fixed it up. People cancel pre-orders all the time. That's the reason why game delays happen, because especially after a beta, if a game gets delayed after a beta, you know that the data that came back for it was not good from the player base.
For us to worry, pay attention to reviewers. Like the pre-order reviews, I'm going to evangelize the fact that you should pay attention to reviewers. Like the pre-order system also kind of allows developers and publishers to sidestep like critiques and analysis in a big way. Like we naturally have a confirmation bias, especially when you put money down for something. If I pay money for something, I don't want to then contend with the fact that I made a mistake because this thing is shit.
So Tam, what can we do?
The most important thing I would say,
nowadays you see so much of gameplay because people leak stuff and people are streaming stuff early, and people are just like, everything is just ass blasted on the internet now. So if you want to know if a game is good or not, go watch a YouTube video, a Twitch streamer, a social media content uploader, a rumor mill leaker person, the trending videos that happen, like the Zelda videos that have been trending crazy for Tears of the Kingdom. I really wasn't caring about Tears of the Kingdom too much. And then I saw, hey, you know what? Nintendo did actually something kind of cool. They made like a little block or a block building simulator type of physics engine thing in Zelda. That's cool on my opinion, especially because I got it working on the damn Switch of all things. It's like, wow, good job, those developers. All right, nice. But yeah, like if you're trying to figure out, like if you see a game has a CGI trailer, like say you're watching the Game Awards or Summer Games Fest or a PlayStation showcase or an Xbox showcase or a Nintendo Direct or whatever, if it's just CGI, don't trust the trailer. In all honesty, like the Metal Gear Solid stuff that we just saw, it looks kind of cool, but that's not in game. That's just CGI. Who knows? Maybe it's in game, but we don't really know what that looks like right now. So you have to be very careful on that stuff right there. If it is just CGI, that's just a rule of thumb that content creators, we use that all the time. But again, I would trust kind of I never trust reviewers. I never trust content creators that are sponsored. I never trust really content creators over. I am one, and I will give my opinions on games and stuff and tech and everything, but I wouldn't trust it in that form. I would go to somebody's stream and watch 10, 15 minutes of the game in action, live right there. Here's a chunk of the gameplay. Here's what you're doing. Is there enough story that keeps your attention? Is the gameplay cool that keeps your attention? Is it worth your time, the bang for the buck? If the game is done within 3 days and it's $70, there's probably not a lot there. If the game has too much cutscenes for you and you're seeing just cutscene after cutscene after cutscene after cutscene, maybe it's not your thing. If a game looks really cool and you're just like, ooh, man, I want to watch more of this, that's a pretty good indicator that maybe you should pick it up and play it yourself, because now you're getting invested. Is it really that hard to figure out and understand?
Of all this, in terms of like purpose, is I hope you would agree. I think you would agree is messaging the data and providing insight into how popular or how much interest there is going to be around the game, right? Wishlist it.
I love a wish list.
Yeah.
Wishlisting reminds me, especially because there are so many indie games that I'm always interested in.
Yeah, and indie developers have been very open with like when you see our indie game and you think that you're interested in it, wishlist it on Steam. Core part of Steam. They're on PlayStation, they're on Xbox. We check to make sure, and they are available. I think the Xbox One is.
But if you pre-order, then it gives more of a incentive for developers to actually do more work on it. A wish list does not mean that the game is actually going to make that revenue. Wish listing is very nice. It's like a thumbs up on a post or something on social media, but it is not confirmative that, okay, this thing is selling well. So if you want to absolutely make sure that thing is selling well, pre-order.
Is only available. You can do it PlayStation on the app, or the most important use out of pre-ordering or signaling your interest, right?
If you're interested in a game, post about it. That's another metric to show interest in, like, I don't know, watch trailers.
Posting about it, tweeting about it, whatever. It's as valuable a metric of interest as pretty much anything.
There used to be a old line there on one of the old shows I used to watch that was connected to G4 TV, and then you might remember the Attack of the Show, right? Well, there's a little thing that the revised version of the Attack of the Show came up with, which was social currency, and I always loved that little phrase, social currency, because it's like, okay, if you are using your social currency to promote something and like something and share something, so whatever you want to think about G4 TV, this was it was a good little coined phrase that came up out of G4 TV. I was like, yeah, cool. Use your social currency, absolutely. Use your social medias. Say it's at the developers, at the publishers, be like, this was super cool. I loved every moment of it. Good job, everyone. Nice. Use that social currency, because that can go a long ways. Absolutely. If like Nintendo knows they have a hit on their hands, and everybody knows, like, even I was like, it's Zelda, whatever. But now I've seen so much people using their social currency and saying and posting and just loving the shit out of Tears of the Kingdom. I'm like, that's a good hit. They did something right for once. So yeah. I mean, is it held back by hardware? Sure, but people are still finding joy in Zelda, even though the hardware is not keeping up, and that's a whole other issue that like Nintendo has. Anyways, did people pre-order Zelda? Yeah. Did Nintendo know that they had a big hit coming in on their hands? Yes. The other thing too with the pre-order stuff, that's the reason why you saw so much marketing campaign behind Zelda. It's not just because Zelda is like a mainstay of Nintendo, but because they had, like, that's another place where they get funding for marketing campaigns. If there's a ton of pre-orders for something, you're going to see the ads start rolling on something like a Twitch or a YouTube or maybe even a Facebook, Instagram, whatever. The marketing campaign, it gets helped out a lot, because after the game comes out, when do you ever see a marketing campaign for it ever again? Just saying. You gotta think of all that stuff when again, like, I'm done with that video, but it's just like to see a publication like Gamespot say some just like mind-numbing stuff like that, like having somebody on there that says something like, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? That's exactly what we've all been fighting for to get more of. Is, like I said, access to game. Like Jeff Keighley, that's one of the things I always hear him say that he asks developers for is like, hey, can you get a demo or something, Ray? Or is there going to be a demo or a beta or something, Ray, for this game that we're showing off? And that will incentivize Jeff Keighley to put it on something like a Game Awards or a Summer Games Fest, because now all of a sudden you're not just seeing it, you're interacting with it. You are part of the experience of everybody getting hands-on with it. When people were going to E3, when they used to go to E3, when they're going to all these events, and it's like a Call of Duty event or a Mortal Kombat event or something, and hey, guess what? Like Street Fighter 6 was ridiculous. People had hands-on with that 5 to almost 6 times before any of us that cannot go to events and such, because it's just for whatever reason, whether it's too expensive or whatever, or we just don't get invited to those events. It was like 6 times people had hands on with Street Fighter 6 before anybody else got to play. It was like the same group of people over and over and over again, and then they all got the promotion of it. So content creator wise, they got all the exposure for playing the game. The rest of us were just basically, if we wanted to use any footage, we had to use their footage in our videos, which is a whole other bad situation, because then demonetization happens and blocking happens and all that stuff. So it's like, again, that's just the dumbest thing that I could hear. And when I heard that, I'm like, I might actually make the exception and make a video on that. So yeah, just a little bit of a breakdown, tear down reaction of that GameSpot thing. Again, pre-order games, wish list them, send good words, good vibes, whatever you want to say to developers. If you like the product, constructive criticism goes a long ways. Also, I'm not saying just be fanboys of everything. I'm saying, like, don't be like, this thing sucks. Give an example. Give some details on why things sucks, because you saying it sucks doesn't really help. It doesn't help the developers know what to do and what not to do. Yeah. Anyways, go check out the rest of the YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs ups, the bells, the notifications, the whistles, the birdie, the tweets, all that good stuff. It helps out tremendously. And yeah. Anyways, you can also follow on Twitch to see whenever I go live. And sometimes I do Let's Talk You videos. I will be streaming the Summer Games Fest and actually be a co-streamer, partner of such. They sent me the press package, so I'm in with the cool kids on Summer Games Fest. Thanks, shout out to Jeff Keighley on that one. So yeah, anyways, thanks for tuning in, thanks for stopping by, and I will see ya next time.